Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. So this is my craft tech buying guide and this is the updated version for 2025. So if you are hoping that under your tree this holiday season you are going to have some type of craft technology, then this is the buying guide for you. So I will have sections in this video for Cricut machines, for lasers, for sublimation printers, for heat presses, and then I'll talk about other printing technology as well. So if you want to skip around, like if you are not interested in Cricut machines, you want to skip to the laser portion, there will be chapters on this video, so you can go ahead and skip to whatever section works for you. Or you can watch the entire video and get my opinion on all of the various craft technology. So first of all, I have my computer in front of me because I will be looking at a website that I've set up for you, and I will link to that in the description below this video. And that page on my website actually goes through everything I'm going to talk about because this is going to kind of be rapid fire. So if you want to go more in depth, that page is where you would do that. Also, this is only the craft technology that I personally own and have used, so I'd never give my opinion on technology that I haven't personally used. So everything that I talk about will be things that I actually have and actually use. I am also going to say that I would never recommend that you make your purchase decision based on this video. So this video is intended to help you sort of narrow down your purchasing decision. Once you've narrowed it down, say, I want a laser for the holidays, or I want to purchase a laser, and you use my recommendations to narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3 different lasers that you might want to consider. Then I would head to my full video on each of these products. So each of the products you're interested in, watch the full video, and then make your purchasing decision after that. You can also, at any time, ask me questions in the comment section below. Let me know what you want to make, what you're considering, and I can definitely help steer you in the right direction as well. And also the page that I'm linking to below has comparison charts for each of these sections. So if you're interested in any of the sections, I would definitely check out the chart. It's a one-sheeter with sort of all the information that I'm going to talk about. And that way you get all that information sort of summed up and can read it. So it's in a readable format. So I'm going to start with Cricut machines. And the first thing I'm going to say is I have an entire which Cricut is for me video. And you can definitely watch that, but I'm going to kind of rapid fire between all the Cricut machines that are on the market right now within this video. And all the machines that I'm going to review, I'm going to give a star rating system. So there's a possibility of 5 stars, and the star rating system is completely based on my opinion. So nothing official about the star rating system. It is totally my opinion. So for the Cricut machines, we're going to start with the smallest and work our way to the largest. And the smallest Cricut machine currently on the market is the Cricut Joy. And I give the Cricut Joy 2 stars. A couple drawbacks of the Cricut Joy are that you can't do print and cut, and it does not have the ability to score. And then also it has a really tight size restriction. So it's the smallest Cricut machine. It also cuts the smallest. So that's why I rate it lower than other machines. Is it a good machine? Yes, it is just very restrictive. However, the next machine on my list is the Joy Xtra, and it is a 5-star machine for me. This is my personal favorite Cricut machine, seriously, right now. It is an amazing machine, still a small compact size, but big enough for you to do most things. You add that print and cut. Now, it does not add the ability to do scoring, but for me, I don't do a ton of scoring anyway, so that is okay. And I just feel like this one is the best value for beginners. Very easy machine to learn how to use. Like I said, small, it's lightweight, it's compact, it's easy to fit just about anywhere. Definitely my highest rated Cricut machine. And the next step up is the Explore series of machines. So currently you can probably find on the market Explore Air 2, Explore 3, and Explore 4. Now those numbers go up, so the Explore 4 is the latest and would be the greatest technology. So for me, the Explore Air 2 is a 3-star machine just because of the technology advancements. When that machine was made, there are just some drawbacks with it as Cricut has advanced in their technology. Explore 3 is a 4-star machine. Now the Explore 4 ended up being a 5-star machine for me because it is so fast. So you get even larger than the Joy series. You add scoring. With the Explore series, you add a deep cut blade, so you have even more cutting capabilities. And the Explore 4 is just so fast. So when I am reaching for a Cricut machine, I either reach for the Joy Xtra, or if I need to get something done really quickly, I always reach for my Explore 4. So those are my 2 go-to machines and the ones that I usually end up recommending. Next series is the Maker series. So the original Maker, the Maker 3, and the Maker 4. There was no Maker 2, if you'll notice there. Again, those numbers just indicate technology advancements. I'm not even sure if the original Maker is still sold, but I am leaving that on the list. You might find it for sale like some places or even secondhand. So out of those, I would definitely recommend the Maker 4. The Maker had some issues with the rollers, and the material for those rollers was improved in later models. Now, the original Maker is actually a 4-star machine for me. The Maker 3 is a 3-star, and the Maker 4, they went back up a little bit to a 4-star machine. So the original Maker actually came with more for your purchase price. Like I said, if you could find it still for sale, it was a very good machine and it came with a lot of things. However, the rollers were the problem. The Maker 3, they took away a lot of those things. It didn't come with as much. It was still a good machine, but it went down in star rating for me. The Maker 4 went back up just because they fixed those rollers, and again, super fast. I ended up really liking the speed of the Explorer 4 and the Maker 4, so I ended up rating those higher. As I've used them, I find that I really do enjoy the faster cutting speeds. And the Maker 4 and Explorer 4 cut faster on and off a mat, so you don't have to have those Cricut materials in order to get those faster cuts. And then finally, you have the Cricut Venture. It's a 2-star machine for me. It's a very large machine. It does have a market if you're looking to make very large cuts, or if you make a ton of cuts and you want to make, you know, big sheets, like gang sheets of a bunch of tiny cuts. The Venture is for you. It's a good machine. However, it is very pricey, and I feel like it has a limited market. And it also doesn't cut all the things that the Maker cuts. So it cuts more things like the Explorer cut. So we've been working our way up throughout this. So the Joy cut some materials, the Explorer cut a little bit more materials, the Maker added on even thicker materials, and then the Venture, while it added size, it cuts materials similar to what an Explorer machine would cut. So it did go backwards as far as like what the machine cuts, even though it went up in price. So for all of those reasons, it became a 2-star machine for me. So generally, I recommend the Cricut Joy Xtra to people, especially if they're beginners. If they need a little bit of a bigger size or some of those increased material thicknesses, I'll go to the Explorer 4, or if they need faster speeds. And then the Maker 4, I only recommend to people if they want to cut those thicker things that a knife blade would cut, so really thick wood, if they need to engrave on things, if they need the deboss tip. Those very specialty cases are the only reason I recommend a Maker 4. So again, I have a full video sort of outlining each of the Cricut machines, and I will link to that in the description below this one. I would head there next to sort of get the details on each machine and then determine which one's right for you. So now that we've talked about Cricut machines, I'm gonna talk about lasers next because we're still cutting here. So if you are struggling with your Cricut machine and you're like, I have the Maker and it still doesn't cut all that I want it to. I want to cut regular wood. I don't want to cut basswood and balsa wood. I want to cut regular wood. I want to cut thicker wood. I want to cut acrylic. You're going to need to invest in a laser. So I have a wide variety of lasers, and I'm gonna run through them really quickly, similar to the way I did the Cricut machines. However, if you are confused about the types of lasers, I'm gonna throw out words here like diode, fiber, infrared, CO2. I'm gonna throw out a bunch of different types of lasers as I'm talking. If that confuses you, I have a full video on types of lasers and which type might be for you. And that might be a good place to start as far as narrowing down your laser options. So I will link to that video in the description below this one. All right, so as we're talking about lasers, I'm gonna list the laser itself. I am going to give you an approximate price, and it's usually the MSRP, so the manufacturer's suggested retail price. You might find it lower or even higher some places. And then I'll give my rating as well as kind of what type of laser it is and restrictions generally. So we're gonna start with the Glowforge, and Glowforge Aura and Spark are both machines I have. So the Glowforge Aura is $11.99. It's a 2-star machine for me, and it's a 6-watt diode laser. The Glowforge Spark is a $6.99 machine, and it's a 3-star machine for me. It is a 6-watt diode laser as well. So both of these machines are restrictive on size. The Glowforge Aura will do bigger things than the Glowforge Spark. However, I find that I like the Spark better. I like that it's a great beginner machine. It's very compact. The additional features of the Aura don't add up for the price for me. So I do find that the Spark overall is a better value for your money. So if you're going to start with a Glowforge, I would definitely start with that Spark. However, I'm going to caution you that I'm going to like other lasers on this list way better than either of these Glowforge machines. So don't just stop here on this video, so keep going with this video. Next up, let's talk xTool machines. So currently I have 4 different xTool machines. So I have the xTool M1 Ultra, which is about $9.99. It is a 3-star machine for me, and that is either a 10 watt or 20 watt diode laser, depending on what you order. The xTool F1 Lite is $7.99. It's a 4-star machine for me, and that's a 10 watt diode laser. The xTool F1 Ultra is $35.99. Way up in price. However, that is a 4-star machine for me. It's a 20 watt diode and a 20 watt fiber all in one laser, explaining part of the price discrepancy. And then xTool S1 is $11.99. Again, a 4-star machine for me. You can get this in either a 10 watt, a 20 watt, or a 40 watt diode. And you can also get a 2 watt infrared head to add onto it. Now, as you increase in power with each of those, the price would increase as well, or if you add on additional laser types, for some of these, it will add on to the price. So of these machines, the xTool S1 is probably more of a traditional laser that you're used to seeing, similar to a Glowforge. You do have a very large working area, and it also allows for pass-through for long lengths. So you can do very large projects with this. And seriously, the S1 is just a workhorse of a laser, and one that I highly recommend. At that $11.99 beginner price, it's definitely a very affordable option and a great laser. And I really like xTool overall. For the company, their lasers, the ease of setup, the software is really great. So xTool overall is something that I highly recommend for people. Now with all of the xTool lasers, you can also add on a rotary accessory where you could not with those Glowforge lasers. So a rotary accessory allows you to do things like tumblers. So that's something that a lot of people are looking to do. They're looking to engrave tumblers when they purchase a laser, and you just can't do that with either of the Glowforge machines that I have. So the ability to add that onto these xTool machines, I feel like is something that a lot of people are looking for. Now the xTool M1 Ultra has a lot of other capabilities. You can add pins to it, you can add blades, you can do like print and cut type of things. So it's intended to be sort of an all-in-one machine that could replace your Cricut and be a laser. However, in my opinion, I would never get rid of my Cricut machine. I feel like Cricut does those functions way better than xTool is currently doing them. So for me, I want a laser machine and a Cricut machine, not an all-in-one machine. I haven't found an all-in-one machine that I would recommend yet. So for me, that's kind of why it got a 3-star, is trying to be an all-in-one, and it just wasn't there for me. The F1 series, both of those were a 4-star for me. I really love the F1 series. So the F1 Lite, of course, it was less expensive. It's a smaller machine. It's super small and cute and perfect for those of you that want to take a machine to craft fairs. So the F series line of xTool is all those small compact lasers, but that also means that they are restricted on size. Now you can add some accessories to get a larger size. That does increase your price, and it still doesn't get really, really large. So if you're looking to cut larger things, you might just sort of ignore the F series. The F1 Ultra, I will say it has that 20 watt diode and 20 watt fiber all in one laser, comes with it. Super expensive price, but the deep engraving that you're able to get with that, the engraving on different metals, the deep engraving I was able to get, like I did some slate. You just get really amazing results with that machine. So if you can live with the price tag and you can live with the smaller size, it is definitely a very cool laser to play with. But out of all the xTool lasers, I would probably choose the xTool S1 for a diode laser where you can add that infrared head to do some of those metals. I just think it's a workhorse of a machine and something that you can just use over and over again. Large sizes, pass through. It just has just about everything that you would want in a laser. Next, we're going to talk about the WeCreat lasers, and I have the Vision, the Vista, and the Lumos currently. So the WeCreat Vision is about a $16.99 price tag. It is a 2-star machine for me. You can do a 20 watt or a 40 watt diode, and then you can add on a 2 watt infrared head. The WeCreat Vista is a $13.99 machine. It's a 4-star machine for me. It is a 10 watt diode, and you can add on a 2 watt infrared head. And then the WeCreat Lumos, again, that's one of those super small lasers. It's a 4-star for me. It's $12.49, and it's a 10 watt diode and a 3 watt infrared. And it has MOPA marking, which means that you can engrave certain metals with colors. So that bumps it up for me with that additional feature. So the WeCreat Vision is the one that sort of the whole laser moves, like the whole thing rises, the whole thing goes down. And that was a downfall for me. I just really did not like that laser overall. Then they came out with the Vista and I liked it way better. So to engrave tumblers, you add the rotary to that and the laser head actually flips. So you don't actually have to raise the laser up at all. That makes that laser a 4-star machine for me just for that feature alone. I think it's very innovative and amazing to work with. And then the WeCreat Lumos, again, you're gonna have a small working area. You can add on different things to increase that working area, but it still doesn't get super large. But just for the fact that it does those amazing things, that color metal engraving, all of it's all in one, you don't have to switch the heads, definitely gets a 4-star from me. I really love those small little lasers. And my last two are the FLUX lasers. So I have the FLUX Ador as well as the FLUX beamo. The FLUX Ador is $13.99. It's a 3-star machine for me. You can get a 10 watt or 20 watt diode and a 2 watt infrared. Again, this is sort of one of those all-in-one machines where it can print and do a lot of different functions. I do think it does those functions well. It is very deep, so I struggle with it on a high table, like getting inside, so I always need a smaller table for that type of laser where it's so deep. The FLUX beamo is a $19.95. It gets a 3-star from me. So this is a 30 watt CO2 laser and you can add a diode laser option on it if you want. Now, hopefully you've watched that laser types video that I talked about at the beginning, but a lot of you are going to want a CO2 laser and CO2 lasers can get very expensive. I just said the FLUX beamo is only $19.95. It is like the world's smallest little CO2 laser. It is a great beginner CO2 laser. For those of you that are watching this video because you want your laser to cut clear acrylic, you have to have a CO2 laser. This FLUX beamo is the only one I've mentioned that can cut clear acrylic in this entire video. So in my opinion, the FLUX beamo, it does it well. It's easy to set up. The software is super easy to use. And you can cut the things like clear acrylic that you can't do on these other diode lasers. Now, there are size restrictions which dropped it down a couple stars for me. However, if you are thinking, I just want to make small projects, I want to cut and engrave on wood, I want to cut and engrave on clear acrylic, the projects are going to be fairly small, I would suggest the FLUX beamo every single time. It is definitely an affordable CO2 laser that will get you started with laser crafting and allow you to do clear acrylic. So that was a lot of information and I would encourage you to head below and click on my Craft Tech buying guide. There is a whole table that compares these lasers. I have what type of features this has. Does it have an air assist? Does it have a camera? What kind of accessories are available? I'm laying out the working area for you. So that way within that table you can compare these lasers side by side and decide which one is for you. Now, the laser type, I feel like that's the first thing you need to decide. Once you decide the type of laser that will work for the crafter that you are, then you can head to this table and compare the lasers that I have. Now, there are many, many more lasers on the market. These are only the ones that I have and have experience with. All right, so let's move on from cutting to printing. So we're gonna talk about my Sublimation printer comparison next. So I have obviously a lot of Sublimation printers, so let's talk about all of those. So the first way you can go is you can convert an Epson EcoTank printer, and you can do this like 250 bucks, maybe even cheaper around Black Friday. But this gets a 2-star rating from me. So this can be a struggle. It can be a struggle with clogging. It can be a struggle with colors. Some people just have great success out of converting an Epson EcoTank and other people struggle every single time they print. And I can't tell you which person you will be. So in order to avoid all that headache, I recommend a dedicated Sublimation printer. And the rest of the printers on my list are dedicated Sublimation printers. The Epson EcoTank is the only converted printer. And I will mention here that when you convert that printer, when you add that Sublimation ink inside, you do void your warranty. So, in my opinion, Epson EcoTank conversion is just not worth it. So, what are the printers on the market that are dedicated Sublimation printers that I would recommend? The first is the Epson F170. Yes, they have an actual Sublimation printer. It is $449 and it gets a 3-star from me. One of the drawbacks for this one is that currently they only have an 8.5-inch wide printer size. I've heard that they are going to come out with a different model and I'm excited about that. currently on the market, only that 8.5 inch wide printer size. To me, the color accuracy is really great with those. You do need to print regularly with the F170, so either schedule your prints, remember to print occasionally, do something, because it really doesn't do its own maintenance. So that's another drawback, which drops it down to a 3-star for me. Now I'm going to mention here the Epson F570. I don't have this printer currently. It is the large, very large size of the F170. So it's 24 inches wide, it's roll fed. It is a professional sublimation printer. I wanted to stick this in here just because if you are ready for that next step, if you're ready to professionally print for sublimation, I would look at this Epson F570 or something similar for those professional print jobs. The rest of the printers that I'm going to talk about are for crafters or those just starting out with their handmade business for sublimation. Then we're going to talk about these Sawgrass printers. So you have a Sawgrass SG500 and a Sawgrass SG1000. The SG500 starts around $624, the SG1000 around $1,574. Both of these get a 3-star from me. The SG500 is the smaller size, so it's 8.5 inches wide, or the SG1000 is 11 inches wide. Both of them excellent color accuracy. They both do their own maintenance. They're both really good printers. However, the cost of the ink for the Sawgrass printer is very expensive. It drops down the rating for me. And there's also been various software issues. I feel like maybe those are getting a little better and they're fixing those, but because of that, I did drop my rating on the Sawgrass printers to a 3-star. And then they also have something new this year called Sawgrass Versiflex. So what you do is you take the SG500 or the SG1000, you have to have a new printer, and you add Versiflex ink into it. Then it's a sublimation printer as well as the ability to print on cotton. Now, these printers run, depending on which version you get, from $8.99 to $23.99. So the printer is more expensive. The ink is more expensive every single time you print. So I do give it a 2-star. And I would encourage you, if you're considering the Versiflex system, watch my full video on Versiflex. Couple reasons why it gets a 2-star from me is that when you print for cotton on the Versiflex paper, the paper is wet when you apply it to your blank. So you do have to locate it while the ink is wet. Huge drawback for me. And then also the price of the ink is more expensive no matter what you're printing. So if you're printing a sublimation print, each sublimation print is more expensive, as well as those prints that you print on the Versiflex paper for the cotton. So for me right now, this printer is getting a lower rating. And then I'm going to end on my recommendation for sublimation printers, and that is the Brother SP1. Comes in at about $3.99. It is a 5-star printer for me. Literally the only drawback I would have is that it only prints 8.5 by 14 inches maximum. That would be the only drawback I would have. The ink is affordable. It runs its own maintenance. I've never had any issues. It doesn't run through ink fast at all. Like, I've had it over a year. I still have the ink that came with the printer inside of it, and my ink levels are over half full. Seriously, it has been a workhorse of a printer for me. I've had very few issues. The colors are amazing. Seriously, the Brother SP1 is the sublimation printer that I recommend across the board. So if you get a sublimation printer, you're most likely going to need a heat press. So let's run through my heat press comparison really quick. So these are the heat presses that I currently own, and I will say that I'm going to run through just the traditional heat presses. I will briefly mention at the end some of the specialty presses I have, but these are just the traditional presses. So first of all is the Cricut EasyPress. No matter if you get the 9x9 or the 12x10, my review would be the same. It's a 4-star press for me. It is a manual press, which is a drawback. You're restricted on size. I generally don't do heavy pressure items with my manual presses, so it gets a 4-star for me. However, these are seriously perfect for beginners. They are a real workhorse as far as like in your craft room if you are just crafting away. I reach for my EasyPress literally all the time. Next up is the Cricut AutoPress. I still have this listed as $9.99 as the MSRP. However, they have dropped these to like $2.99 on sale. So it is a 4-star press for me, and it's seriously such a good press. It's an automatic open press. You can close it with just 2 fingers, which is a huge, huge benefit for those of you who have issues with your hands, trouble closing a traditional press. I always recommend the Cricut AutoPress to those people. The only real drawback is that press, you can't adjust the pressure. So the pressure is about a medium pressure. So anything that requires a heavy pressure generally doesn't work really well on the AutoPress unless you really play around with the settings, putting boards in there, the time and temperature. You just have to really play around with it. So that's kind of a drawback for me. Next I have a Siser heat press. It's around $3.49. It's a 4-star press for me. It's a 9x12 clamshell. It's a great press. The only drawback is that small size, and sometimes the small size is what I want, so it's okay. Adjustable pressure. It doesn't auto open either. And I would recommend an auto open press if you're running a business. I feel like that is going to increase your productivity. So the Siser heat press gets a 4-star. Now we have the HTVRont AutoPress. So they have their version of AutoPress, and they actually have the original model and the AutoPress 2, which is their latest model. So the original AutoPress around $236, the second model about $349. The original AutoPress got a 2-star for me, but they fixed some of the things I didn't like. So the AutoPress 2 got a 3-star for me. They're both 15x15. They're an AutoPress. It's auto open, has a pull-out drawer. The original was a auto pressure press, and the AutoPress 2, you could actually adjust the pressure, which bumped it up a star. But they both have a really small opening, so things like hoodies and thicker items, or things like I have to push it in there and get it under the heat plate, and I'm so worried about everything shifting and moving, if my paper is going to shift or move off. So that's just why they get a lower rating for me. I just don't like being able to not be able to see within that small opening. And then HTVRont also has a manual press. It's about $189. It gets a 3-star for me. It's a 15x15 swing away. This is a super simple press, but if simple is what you're looking for, this could be the thing that you're looking for. I mean, you manually close, manually open. It's just a super simple bare bones press, but with that swing away, you can see everything that you're working on. It has adjustable pressure. I mean, it's a beginner press, probably not for business use, but if you are a beginner, this could be the one that you need. And then the xTool heat press runs about $439. It gets a 2-star for me. It's sort of a 12x10 manual press that they have a stand for that can kind of make it a traditional press, and then it also has a little handheld press that comes with it. Anyway, it is intended to do like a lot of things, but it doesn't do any of them well. So it got a 2-star from me. And then the two more professional presses I have are from Proworld. I'm not even sure if both of them are still made anymore, but I'm gonna go ahead and include them because I wanna talk about how a professional press can be better. So I have the Proworld semi-auto press that's around a $7.99, and a Proworld press that has a pressure display that's around $12.99. So both of these are going to be 5-star presses for me. The smaller one is a 15x15. The larger one with the pressure display is a 16x20. Both of them are clamshell, both auto open, both with a pull-out drawer. I will say that both of these are amazing presses. Getting a more professional press like this, if you are running a small handmade business, I would highly recommend. So look for a really well-built press from a dealer that you know. So Proworld is an example, Heat Press Nation, Heat Transfer Warehouse, just a few of the brands that I trust. Look for ones on a website like that. Look for something that has auto open, like I said. A pull-out drawer is something that I also like, so my hands aren't super close to the heat plate. And then if you want to get fancy, you can get that pressure display. So what that does is it tells me exactly what pressure I'm applying. And so for applying consistent pressure time after time, I can tell better with that press what I'm actually applying to my blank. So that's why I really like them. So while those particular models might not be for sale, you can't go wrong with a professional press from a dealer that you trust. It's just going to be a better press than some of these others on the market. Now, if you want even more heat press comparison goodness, we also have Heat Press Roadmap, and that is a course with Corey George from Hey Let's Make Stuff, and she has all kinds of presses that I do not have. So I will link to that in the description below this video. You can head there, you can purchase Heat Press Roadmap, and we sort of walk you through what to look for within a press before you purchase, and walk you through tons of different heat presses, like 27 different heat presses, what they do, how they work, and if we like them or not. And those were my opinions on the traditional presses. However, I have a ton of specialty presses as well. And so you can head to my Craft Tech buying guide and you can see links to more information about any of these presses. So I have the Cricut mug press, I have the PYD Life tumbler press, I have an HTVRont tumbler press, Go to Craft tumbler press, the HTVRont A200 auto tumbler press. And then for hats, I have a Cricut hat press, HTVRont hat press, and a standalone hat press. And then I recently reviewed the HTVRont phone case heat press. So lots of different specialty presses on that list as well. So if you are in the market for any of those, I have videos and guidance to help you decide if they are right for you. Okay, so now let's talk more technology. There's a lot more technology out there than just the things that I've mentioned. A few of the things that I personally have and have done reviews on include some white toner printers. So I have the Creo white toner printer, I have the iColor 560 all-in-one white toner printer, and then I also have a video on how you can turn a regular laser printer into a white toner printer. So if you want DTF without the mess, without that powdering mess, you can get that with a white toner printer. The steps are a bit different than what you're used to maybe seeing with DTF and that type of thing, but I would definitely recommend taking a look at white toner if you are considering getting any type of DTF printer. Now, when talking about DTF printers, I did review, there's a printer from DTF Station that I reviewed, and then I also recently reviewed the xTool apparel printer. And I would say between the two, I definitely recommend the xTool apparel printer because it is self-contained. So self-contained powdering, self-contained heating is a safer way to do DTF. So I will link to that video as well on my Craft Tech buying guide page, so you can head there if you're in the market for a DTF printer. So when we're talking about DTF, I mentioned a couple of different things that were safer options here. So white toner is one way to go that would be safer, as well as the xTool apparel printer, which is all-in-one and contained. So definitely consider DTF safety when you are shopping for that craft technology that prints directly on film. And then I also got the Eufy UV printer this year, and I've done some video content on it as well, and I am loving it and loving printing directly on objects. So if you want to print directly on hard surfaces, I would definitely check out the Eufy UV printer. Now, that printer was on Kickstarter, and they are ramping up production. So if you didn't get in on that Kickstarter, it might be a while before you would actually get your hands on that Eufy. However, it is something that you can put on your wish list. And then finally, I do have a couple links if you're shopping for a home printer with some of my recommendations for shopping for home printers, and I will link to that on my Craft Tech buying guide as well. So now all that's left for you to do is to make your wish list. So comment below with any questions that you have. If you're thinking about any type of craft technology, please ask me any questions that you have. Even if I don't have that technology, I might be able to, one, point you in the right direction, or two, add that to my list for next year that I need to do some reviews and actually post some things on that type of technology. So feel free to leave your comments and questions, and I am happy to help you narrow down your choices when it comes to craft tech. So thank you all so much for joining me. If you liked this video and helped you, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.